But here's a funny thing about counting cars that I didn't know was going to happen. When we first started the show, I really thought we were doing a show about building cars and motorcycles for people.
Something is going on with Danny Koker that almost no major news network is covering properly, even though longtime fans of counting cars have been quietly piecing it together for months. The closures, the silence, the rumors, the losses, and the comeback that finally arrived in 2026 all tell a much bigger story. Stay with me, because what you are about to hear changes everything you thought you knew. The Las Vegas rock club that just closed forever. For 16 long years, Count's Vamped Rock Bar and Grill was more than just a music venue tucked off the Las Vegas Strip. It was the beating heart of Danny Koker's whole world outside of cars, the place where he hosted his band, where rock legends came to jam, where his wife Corey ran the entire entertainment program with the kind of love most business owners stop showing after year 3. But on the very last Saturday of June in the year 2025, the lights went dim for the very last time, and the doors were locked permanently the morning after. The way it ended is what makes this story so painful for the people who watched it unfold. Danny himself listed the 6,000 square foot club for sale in the middle of May 2025, asking $4.3 million through a luxury real estate agent in Las Vegas. By the time October rolled around, the price had already been cut down to $3.75 million, and even then, only one preliminary buyer had come to the table. Corey posted a heartbroken message that left no room for spin, openly admitting that things did not work out with their new partners, which left them with this extremely difficult decision. She apologized to fans for making them sad, and the rock world responded in waves. Sebastian Bach, the former Skid Row vocalist who had performed at Vamped many times, said that Las Vegas without Vamped is like having a huge black hole in the middle of the city. Faster Pussycat played their farewell on the 30th of May. Stephen Pearcy and Warren DeMartini of Rat closed out the 10th of June. Night Ranger took the 18th, Loverboy took the 27th, and on the very final night, Danny's own band, Count 77, walked onto that stage one last time and played the venue into history. Danny told the Las Vegas Review-Journal that running a rock club for 16 years takes an incredible amount of time and work, and that somebody else really needed to take it over and continue this awesome place. What makes this loss cut even deeper is what it represents. This was not just a business. This was the place where Danny met the musicians who would eventually form his band. This was the room Corey booked for roughly 300 concerts a year. And the most painful part is what came right after the closure announcement. The show the world is still waiting for. The same fans who watched Vamped close in 2025 had already been holding their breath for nearly 5 years over something else. Counting Cars, the show that turned Danny Koker into a household name across the entire country, has not produced a single new episode since December of 2021. Yet to this day, neither the History Channel nor the production company behind the show have ever released an official statement saying it is canceled. It exists in a strange kind of television limbo. The series ran for 10 full seasons and 184 episodes, making it one of the longest-running shows the History Channel ever had on its lineup. Then the cameras simply stopped rolling. Insiders who spoke to reporters described long hours and mounting pressure behind the scenes during the final stretch of production, and the timing of the final season landed squarely inside the chaos of the global pandemic when reality television was being hit hard from every direction. Danny himself addressed the future of his television career in a phone interview with John Katsilometes of the Las Vegas Review-Journal in October of 2025. He said he was in talks with 2 different networks for 3 different concepts, and that he expected something to be announced by the end of the year. That self-imposed deadline came and went without any major network announcement. Instead, Danny pivoted towards something much smaller in scale, a project that would launch on the very last day of March in 2026. But before we get to what he actually launched, you need to understand the legal storms that quietly raged around him for years, because some of what fans believe happened in those courtrooms turned out to be completely fabricated. The lawsuits, the lies, and the fake jail sentence. Across the entire run of Counting Cars, Danny Koker was tied to two real legal cases that hit the public record. The first was filed in 2014 by a Las Vegas couple named Jeanette and Paul Hurt, who paid for a 1967 Ford Mustang restoration that they expected to be filmed for the show. According to the lawsuit, the filming was canceled in August of 2013, and when the couple later visited the shop in October, they discovered that no work had actually begun on their car, that the model was not even the right year, and that the price had jumped from $11,000 all the way up to $30,000. The case was civil, not criminal, and the resolution remained sealed. The second real case is far more interesting because in this one, Danny was not the accused. He was the victim. In March of 2016, his company, Counts Customs, filed a $75,000 lawsuit against a former office worker named Joseph Frontiera. The allegations were stunning. Frontiera was accused of using company funds to make a down payment on a Range Rover, of buying personal airline tickets on the company dime, of failing to pay company taxes, which led to roughly $18,000 in penalties from the IRS, and most shockingly, of having rubber stamp copies made of both Danny's signature and his manager, Kevin Mack's signature, so that he could approve checks while they were not in the room. The case settled in August of 2018, with Frontiera reportedly paying back about $41,000, and his name was scrubbed from the show's online records. Now, here is where the internet started inventing things. Around 2024, low-quality blog sites started publishing claims that Danny Koker had served 30 days in jail for an alleged legal issue. Then on the last day of March in 2025, a YouTube video went viral with a headline saying he had been sentenced to life in prison. That video pulled in roughly 400,000 views, and not a single piece of it was true. Every credible news organization that looked into the claims, including the Las Vegas Review-Journal, Courthouse News Service, Forbes, and a verification site called U.S. Prison Guide, found absolutely no court records to back up either story. There has never been an arrest. There has never been a conviction. There has never been a jail sentence. The man who built Counting Cars has never spent a single night behind bars. What he has spent his time doing instead is grieving, and the grief that shaped him most happened 17 years before any of this drama even started. The goodbye that broke him. On the 17th of February in 2008, a man named Daniel Nicholas Koker I died in Las Vegas at the age of 74. He was the founder of Channel 33 in Las Vegas, a former Green Beret with the 10th Special Forces Group stationed in Germany, a baritone vocalist who sang for one of the most respected Southern gospel groups in American history called the Cathedral Quartet, and the man who personally placed a 1966 Ford Mustang into his 9-year-old son's hands and changed that boy's life forever. That 9-year-old boy grew up to be Danny the Count Koker. The reason this matters so much right now is that the death of Danny's father is the original source of every single Danny Koker died rumor that floods the internet to this day. The two men shared the same name. When the father's obituary was published in February of 2008, search engines stored it. Years later, when fans started typing the name into search bars, the obituary kept appearing at the top of the results, and confused people started spreading the news that the host of Counting Cars had passed away. He had not. The man who died was his father, the man who had given him everything, including his name. That same wave of confusion spread to his wife, Corey, as well. At one point, a completely unrelated woman who happened to share Corey's name died in a car accident, and bloggers immediately conflated the two. Corey Koker, who married Danny in 2015 after roughly 17 years of dating, is alive and well, posting regularly on social media, and was photographed standing right next to her husband during the vamped closing announcement in May of 2025. Then in July of 2025, real grief returned to Danny's life again. His longtime friend and one of his most famous custom motorcycle clients, the rock legend Ozzy Osbourne, passed away on the 22nd of that month. Danny had built Ozzy a full custom chopper from the ground up years earlier, a stunning piece of work that Ozzy kept in his home as a showpiece. Danny called it one of his favorite things ever to come out of his shop. Within hours of the news breaking, Danny posted a short message on his official account that simply read, "My heart is aching. God bless Ozzy." The chopper now sits on display inside Count's Customs as a kind of memorial. While Danny was processing those losses, something else was happening behind the scenes that fans had been quietly noticing for years. The health question nobody will answer. If you watch the very first episode of Counting Cars from August of 2012, and then you watch a clip of Danny Koker at the Janie's Fund Gala on the 2nd of February in 2025, you will notice something unmistakable. The man has lost a significant amount of weight. He has never been the kind of person to broadcast his medical history, and to be fair to him, he has never owed his audience that information either. But the visible change has fueled a constant stream of speculation across every single corner of the internet. The rumors range from mild to wildly invented. Some sites claim he is battling cancer. Others insist he was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes back in 2014. Still others have written about heart problems, strokes, and autoimmune conditions. None of these claims has ever been confirmed by Danny himself, and none of them has been backed up by a single credible news source. When asked directly about his weight loss in interviews, he has only ever offered a vague answer about being on what he called a funny diet, without giving any further details. What can be confirmed is that he has remained physically active throughout 2024, 2025, and 2026. He attended the Vegas Rocks Magazine Music Awards in January of 2024. He performed with his band at the Whiskey A Go-Go in March of that same year. He stood at the Janie's Fund Gala in early 2025, then performed the Final Vamped show in June, then attended a Raiders watch party in October, then walked the floor at the SEMA Automotive Show in Las Vegas in November of that year. In other words, the man people keep claiming is gravely ill keeps showing up in public, smiling, working, and lifting heavy automotive parts. But while the public was busy debating his health, the people he built his career alongside were quietly disappearing one by one. The cast that walked away from him. The version of Counting Cars that fans fell in love with included a small group of mechanics, painters, and motorcycle builders who became almost as famous as Danny himself. By the time the show went dark, almost all of them had already moved on, and a few of them left under circumstances that are still talked about today. Scott Jones was Danny's original business manager, and he disappeared from the show abruptly between seasons 2 and 3 back in 2013. The on-air explanation was that he had moved to Tennessee following the birth of his son. Some fans, however, have long suspected that he may have been let go for failing to catch the financial misconduct that Joseph Frontiera was eventually accused of. Scott went back to Tennessee and entered into a business partnership with his former boss, and he has stayed almost entirely out of the public eye ever since. Rolly Sabo, the Hungarian-born detailer who became a fan favorite, left the show after season 6, with public sources claiming the parting was on good terms. Rolly himself has been more careful about what he says. In one social media exchange with a fan, he described the reason for his exit as a long story, and added that any potential return would really be up to the others as well. Just before his departure in January of 2017, his custom-branded detailing trailer was stolen from a parking lot near Rainbow Boulevard, with thousands of dollars in equipment inside. The trailer had his face, his name, and his phone number painted on the side, and many fans believe that being on national television painted a target on his back that he was never quite able to remove. Shannon Aikau, the lead motorcycle builder and a Hawaiian craftsman who happens to be the second cousin of legendary surfer Eddie Aikau, lost his own father, Jimmy Aikau, who had also been a longtime friend of the Koker family. The last bike Shannon and his father ever built together, a 1977 Purple Haze model, sits on display inside Count's Customs as a tribute. Kevin Mack, Danny's right-hand man and best friend of decades, is still working at the shop. Ryan Evans, the head airbrush artist, is still there too, even though tabloids once falsely accused him of being the man who embezzled the $75,000. Horny Mike, whose real name is Michael Henry, is still active in the custom helmet business and recently appeared as a guest on Danny's brand new media project, which is exactly where this whole story finally turns towards something hopeful. The comeback nobody saw coming. On the 31st of March in 2026, Danny Koker did something that surprised almost everyone who had watched the slow contraction of his empire over the previous 5 years. He launched a brand new podcast and video show called Counts Culture, available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and YouTube. It is produced by ITV America, the same company that originally produced Counting Cars, and the executive producer who shaped the original show, Sean Witt, returned to work alongside Danny again. The first wave of guests included the rock journalist Eddie Trunk, the former UFC champion Randy Couture, the legendary Kiss guitarist Bruce Kulick, the bassist Phil Soussan, and the Jackal frontman Jesse James Dupree. The financial picture around all of this is healthier than the recent setbacks might suggest. Multiple credible sources, including Celebrity Net Worth, place Danny's overall worth at roughly $13 million, with some estimates climbing as high as $15 million. At the peak of Counting Cars, he was reportedly earning close to $100,000 per episode. His personal vehicle collection has grown to well over 130 automobiles, including more than 70 motorcycles, with the centerpiece still being that 1966 Ford Mustang his father gave him as a child. His main shop, Counts Customs on South Highland Drive, remains open every single day, offers free public tours, includes a small museum of legendary builds from the show, and just sent its team to the SEMA Automotive Trade Show in November of 2025 with brand new builds. He continues to serve as the official ambassador of a nonprofit called Camp Freedom, which supports disabled veterans, first responders, and Gold Star families, a cause clearly tied to his own father's military service. He donated a fully restored 1978 Lincoln Continental to Steven Tyler's Janie's Fund Gala on the 2nd of February in 2025, where it became the top live auction lot of the night by selling for $300,000. A year later, he donated a restored 1962 Cadillac Coupe de Ville that fetched another $175,000 for the same charity. So, when you put it all together, you start to see the real picture. The vamped closure took something he loved. The cancellation of Counting Cars took the platform that made him famous. The death of his father in 2008 took the man he built everything around. The death of Ozzy Osbourne ended one of his closest celebrity friendships. And yet the man at the center of all of these losses keeps showing up, keeps building cars, keeps writing music with his band, keeps appearing on stages, and just opened a brand new chapter on the last day of March in 2026. Now the question turns to you, because every fan who watched him rise has a different feeling about how this next chapter is going to play out. Drop your thoughts in the comments below and let me know whether you believe Danny Koker's biggest comeback is still ahead of him.